Welcome to the Golden Gems podcast. Today we're taking a deep dive into Andrew Dice Clay, exploring whether the controversial comedian was a symptom of toxic masculinity or the greatest method acting performance in American comedy history.
That is the defining question, isn't it? And, sitting here in January 2026, the timing feels, well, it feels almost eerie.
How so?
I was just reading the trades this morning, and it feels like we're in this massive cultural vibe shift around the late 80s. I mean, we are exactly 36 years out from The Adventures of Ford Fairlane.
A movie that was, let's be honest, absolutely torn apart by critics in 1990.
Eviscerated. But now it's getting this really radical reappraisal.
And it's not just the film historians. If you look at your feed, I feel like every third video I see is some Gen Z kid deconstructing the whole Dice persona. They're not looking at him like a villain. They're treating his 1989 MTV band like it was, I don't know, a piece of performance art. It's this weird retrospective vertigo.
Yeah, the stuff that got him canceled before we even use that word is now being framed as this incredibly complex character study.
Which I guess brings us to the elephant in the room. Or the leak in the room, maybe. The A24 production memo.
Precisely. It was confirmed last week. They're officially developing that biopic the day the laughter died. And what really stuck out to me wasn't the casting.
Which is wild, by the way.
But the specific phrase they use. They want to explore the monolithic paradox of the man.
That phrase really stuck with me, too. It sort of frames our whole mission here. We're not just talking about dirty nursery rhymes.
No.
We're talking about, arguably, the first viral star before the internet. A guy who sold out Madison Square Garden with nothing but a cigarette and an attitude.
And that's the whole thing. To understand how that happened, you have to separate the man from the myth. You can't start at the garden. You have to go back to the architecture. Back to Andrew Clay Silverstein.
Okay, so let's look at that blueprint. Born 1957, Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn. And all the research points to one forensic key for his whole personality. His fun.
There's Silverstein.
Yeah,
he is such a crucial piece of this. He was a boxer, then a real estate agent, but he always had this foot in, the entertainment world.
Right.
He raised Andrew on the Rat Pack. He just drilled that specific brand of 1950s cool into his son's head. The idea that a man commands a room just by existing.
So the father provides the style, but the mechanics of the act, the rhythm.
Yeah.
That came from somewhere else entirely.
You're talking about the music.
He brings it up constantly in early interviews. He wasn't a stand-up first. He was a drummer.
And that is the DNA of the act. I don't mean that metaphorically. I mean, it's the literal structure. Andrew Silverstein was a really good drummer.
And the drummer's whole world is tension and release.
It's the mathematics of it.
Yeah.
You create a pattern, you break it, you hit that crash cymbal at the exact right moment.
That makes so much sense when you watch the old tapes from Pips in Sheepshead Bay.
Yeah.
Late 70s. He's not telling stories. He's doing these manic impressions. Jerry Lewis, Travolta. And they're so kinetic.
Kinetic is the perfect word. He was a technician. But here's the thing about those early impressions.
They were hollow.
Philosophically hollow, exactly. He was a drummer without a song. He needed a vehicle for that rhythm.
And that vehicle became the Diceman. But it wasn't an overnight thing, right? It was more of a slow calcification.
Yeah, he took that 50s greaser thing from his dad and sort of welded it onto the raw id of 80s Brooklyn. He saw a void in the market.
Everything was getting very corporate.
Very safe. So he created this unrepentant king of the corner, but, and this is the absolute key, the thing that made him different, he never winked.
That's what always got to people. Usually with a character that aggressive, there's a moment where they break, they let you in on the joke.
Just a little smile to say, hey, don't worry, I'm actually a nice guy.
He refused.
Refused to give them that safety net. He forced you to confront the character head on. You were never reassured that there was a nice Jewish boy from Brooklyn under all that leather.
It's funny because we look back now and think he just appeared fully formed. But his IMDb from the early 80s, I mean, it was a real grind.
Oh, it was desperate. He was just a working actor trying to find a frequencies and Slayer spoofs like Wacko.
Right, in 82. And bit parts on MAH and different strokes.
He was trying to be a sitcom guy. Trying to be a movie guy.
The turning point is usually cited as making the grade in 1984. It's a forgettable film, but you can see the character just lock in.
That's the first time he really inhabits the persona on screen. He gets the sneer down. He realizes the leather jacket, the fingerless gloves. It's not a costume.
It's a uniform of war.
Exactly. But even with the look, the comedy establishment wanted nothing to do with him.
Which brings us to Mitzi Shore at the Comedy Store. She was the gatekeeper.
And she hated the act. Banned him, called it vulgar, said it lacked artistic merit, and honestly, That rejection was the best thing that ever happened to him.
Really? Getting banned from the Comedy Store in the 80s was a career death sentence.
For a traditional comic, yeah. But because the big clubs locked him out, Andrew was forced into the trenches. Rock clubs, strip malls, these late-night fringe spots.
He wasn't dealing with a comedy crowd.
He was dealing with the drunk, visceral crowd that wanted blood. He had to become a gladiator.
So he learns to control a room with sheer force of will.
He starts treating the mic stand like a weapon. And this is where it all comes back to the drumming. The jokes weren't landing, so he stopped writing jokes.
He started writing rhythms.
Yes. And I really want to drill down on this because it's the most misunderstood part of his whole legacy.
Okay, so explain that. How does that work with the nursery rhymes?
If you really analyze them, Hickory Dickory Dock, Little Miss Muffet, the content is secondary. The shock value is the hook, sure.
Of course.
But the structure is a pure 44-time signature. It's staccato, it's boom, 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 boom,
What's his
correct.
call and response?
He trained the audience to anticipate the punchline and chant it with him. And it wasn't stand-up comedy, it was a rock concert. The audience wasn't laughing at a surprise, they were part of a ritual.
He wasn't looking for a laugh, he was looking for a snare hit.
That's it. And once he unlocked that, the ascent was just vertical. 1988, he meets Rodney Dangerfield.
Who puts him on that HBO special, Nothing Goes Right.
Yeah.
And from there, it's just, it's like a rocket.
Rodney was a genius at spotting talent. He saw a kindred spirit of disrespect in Clay. But the scale of what happened next, I mean, we have to make a historical distinction here.
What's that?
Comedians played theaters. Rock stars played arenas. Clay bridged that gap.
He was selling 20,000 tickets a night. That's Metallica numbers.
And the audience showed up in leather jackets. They knew every word. It was this mass ritual of transgression.
And the absolute peak was Madison Square Garden in 1990. 2 sold-out nights.
It's a statistical anomaly. No internet, no viral marketing, just word of mouth and this dangerous reputation.
But that peak was also the breaking point, wasn't it?
It was the beginning of the fracture. You can't generate that much heat without getting burned. As his popularity exploded, so did the backlash. And the flashpoint was May 12th, 1990, Saturday Night Live.
That was a real line in the sand. Nora Dunn and Sinead O'Connor boycotting the show. It turned the episode into a national news event.
It did. And this is where the whole narrative shifts. The media began analyzing the nursery rhymes with this intense literalism.
Treating them like political manifestos.
Instead of rhythmic exercises in shock, they looked at the character of the Diceman and just assumed it was a direct transcript to Andrew Silverstein's soul.
And then Hollywood tries to fix him, tries to package him for sitcoms.
Which was a total disaster, but the deeper tragedy was what was happening internally. Andrew Silverstein started to disappear.
The sunglasses stayed on in interviews, the jacket in business meetings.
The line just dissolved. He became the character because the character was the only thing protecting him from the onslaught.
But before we get to the fall, we have to talk about the work from that specific time. Because there is one artifact that is just so bizarre and fascinating. The 1990 double album, The Day the Laughter Died.
That album is his magnum opus, and it's so interesting because it was produced by Rick Rubin.
The Def Jam guy.
Yeah.
Slayer. Beastie Boys.
Right. Rubin understood that Dice wasn't a comedian. He was a heavy metal act.
I listened to it again for this deep dive, and it is, it's uncomfortable. It's not a polished special. It feels like an assault.
It's almost 100 minutes of Clay actively antagonizing the crowd. He recorded it unannounced at Dangerfield's small club. He's bombing on purpose, fighting with people. It's basically audio verite of a nervous breakdown.
Critics must have hated it.
They destroyed it, but purists today, they see it as this daring experiment. He's testing how much an audience will take. He's dismantling the very thing that made him famous right in front of them.
And right around then, you also get The Adventures of Ford Fairlane. I know it failed, but watching it now, it's a beautiful movie.
It's a perfect time capsule. And Clay's performance is magnetic. He just consumes every frame. The film failed because the culture wanted him to fail, not because it was without merit.
And his stage command at that time was just total.
Absolute. He understood silence. He'd light a cigarette and just hold the smoke, forcing 20,000 people to wait for him to exhale. That's a power move very few performers in history could ever pull off.
But the culture moved so fast. By 92, the world was completely different.
The grunge shift.
Yeah.
Suddenly, it's Nirvana, it's Pearl Jam, it's all about sincerity. The brash 80s materialism Dice represented was instantly obsolete.
It wasn't cool to be the loud guy in leather anymore.
It was cool to be the sensitive guy in flannel. And the crash was just brutal. It wasn't a fade out, it was ruin.
Financial ruin, divorce, and what we now call cancellation.
He was canceled before the term even existed. The public decided he was a monster, not a character. He was blacklisted.
So he retreats, raises his sons, tries to survive.
But he didn't quit. And this, to me, is the most compelling part of the story, the refining fire. He went back on the road.
To gyms and casinos.
Secondary markets. He had to relearn how to be funny without the scream of an arena. He had to earn every single laugh again.
Yeah.
And that work, it paid off in this really surprising way.
The acting renaissance.
When he shows up in Woody Allen's Blue Jasmine in 2013, and then A Star is Born in 2018, we saw something totally new.
You saw vulnerability. In Blue Jasmine, he's this broken blue-collar guy who's lost everything. It was heartbreaking.
Exactly. You strip away the leather and the sunglasses, and he delivers these performances of profound warmth and wisdom. It proved Andrew Silverstein was there all along.
It kind of validated the whole method acting theory.
It proved he could take the shell off when he wanted to.
So, looking at him now, in 2026, what's the final legacy? Because he is clearly influencing a new generation.
I think he's the godfather of the modern anti-hero comic. If you look at the unfiltered podcast ecosystem, the Joe Rogans, all the comics who refuse to apologize, they owe a direct debt to him.
He proved you could build an empire outside the system.
And honestly, his survival is his greatest victory. He outlasted the critics, the boycotts, all of it.
Right. And that Showtime series, Dice, was so meta and self-aware.
It was. But ultimately, I think we have to see Dice not as a villain, but as a mirror.
A mirror.
Yeah, he reflected the id of his era. He was a pressure valve for a society obsessed with propriety. He said the things people were thinking but were too afraid to say. And when society changed, the mirror broke. But the reflection, that impulse, it never really goes away.
It really makes you wonder about the cost of that kind of performance. Which brings us, I guess, to the final question.
Does the mask ever truly come off? Or does it consume the face? When the lights go down, is there an Andrew Silverstein left? Or is it just the reflection smoking a cigarette?
Thank you for listening to the Golden Gems podcast. We'll be back next time with another deep dive. Until then, keep exploring, keep listening, and keep celebrating the power of uncompromising voices.